Good morning. We're gonna get started here in just a minute. Just need to get built and all that stuff. Get started here in just a minute. Just need to. Oh no! I gotta set up all the things. I forgot to set up my new page. This page is all screwed up. Yeah, I will not be gaming. I'm just trying to. It's not letting me change my page at the moment because Twitch. So I think that worked. Twitch is kind of twitchy sometimes, right? So let me figure out exactly what I'm doing today. Alright, so we got some editor improvements, it looks like. That's kind of my short list. Yeah, sometimes, more like all the time. So let me see, we are going to Blueprint Utilities, 2D snapping layers. Let's see, sprite export. Harmony and Unreal 4. C++, game dev. Yeah, it's always funny the Twitch update your channel thing. It never comes back without an error message for me. It's like I could not update anything. It's like, well, but you did. Oh well. I saw Adam is supposedly he's online, but there's nothing on his channel at the moment. That guy's been doing work. So I guess I should do some work too, right? Something like that. So let's see, we need to make the sounds available make all the available sounds a drop down in blueprints. So I think that was in our audio utilities. If we've got all this like play SFX stuff, we need the actual drop down for the sound waves themselves, I believe. So let's pop it open and see what the editor thinks sound waves are, because that's what we'll need to take as a class. And we'll see what we can get. Very vexing. Is he online now? He wasn't online like 5 minutes ago. There he is. Doing some more cool stuff. Looks like maybe the t-shirt? So let's see. The audio, we only got one piece of SFX right now, which is that guy. And it is a sound wave. Yeah, we've been trying to get that shirt for a while. He's had like a couple drawings, I know, and he has not been very satisfied with them. which is how it works. Alright, so it's supposed to take a sound wave. Let's go to our sound manager. Yeah, I made all the sound stuff quite a while ago, but basically, for games, a lot of it, especially like 2D games and the rest, you don't need all the 3D sound stuff, but you do need a lot of things like playing SFX or playing voices or playing, background music and having those nice easy functions so that you can call like play sound effects, but you can also have like a dupe name, so like play a bullet firing, but you want to like play bullet firing sound effect every frame or something. You don't want it to just take every sound bank in your game and just only have just bullets firing. So you have like a dupe name for like play sound effects, but deduplicate that with other sound effects of the same type and all that. So I'm looking for where I've actually got sounds being played, and it looks like we've got this audio component and we have this uSound bass. And it's inside of this audio bank thing. So we're looking for what uSound bass. And it looks like we're actually calling stuff with uSound bass pointers and all that. Alright, so yeah, we should be taking uSound bass objects for these things, and then when we call play, we should go look it up and grab all the information we have on those things. Yeah, we have a map of uSound basses and all that stuff. So we call play, we're actually grabbing this sound off of there and then calling all this. So we probably just need to make a function that's identical to this guy, but takes the actual sound itself. And then we can kind of work backwards from there to expose it to blueprints. So let's see, sound name. Instead of the sound name, we're going to take the uSound bass pointer. Let's call it sound. So the name of the sound doesn't actually matter. Very cool, so we need to make this guy. And I have not touched this code in a very, very long time. This was some of the first code that I think I wrote, was the sound engine. If you can look at my calendar. Yeah, it looks like we did Audio Manager. That was back in January, is when we worked on the audio. So yeah, it's been a while since we've looked at this stuff. Alright, so that should expose stuff to the Audio Manager. Let's double check the audio bank's play method real quick. Looks like we're not early outing on some of these things. So we'll need to put that check in there for a null pointer because we're not checking it inside of our audio banks. We're relying on our audio manager not to screw with our audio banks too much. So let's take a look at our audio utils. And let's go ahead and check them out because we're going to be adding some more functions to them. It's going to be T subclass of uSound. which is what we're going to have to actually take. We're going to have to write, I think, a lot of stuff here. Alright, so we're going to want all these things. We pretty much want to duplicate every single one of these methods, but we want to call them with sounds instead of names. So let's just get started. And I'm just gonna have them called play sound instead of just play and all that. So play SFX, play SFX at location, play sound SFX, play sound single SFX, play sound voice, play sound voice, play sound interface. We just play SFX sound. Yeah, alright. We'll do it after the type. Oh, it's a little bit easier to deal with. Voice sound, play interface sound, play primary VTM sound. So I think we want T subclass of I can never remember the capitalization that they have for T subclass. Yeah, it's U sound base. Let's see, what is U sound in? Do we have any headers or do anything crazy? Doesn't look like we need any headers, so we just need this T subclass here. So we just return, we'll just replace all these names with the actual sounds, and what should happen is when we're in Blueprint land, it'll be easier to deal with. For some of our stuff. Alright, so we got all these methods. So let's go duplicate all the stuff inside of our utils. So I think it starts here, play. Alright, so it's all this. Alright, and which is the T subclass of U sound. And we may have to make a whole bunch of functions. It looks like we're actually calling a lot of things with these sounds, so we're going to have to change all sorts of stuff inside of the audio manager just to make it all nice and easy to work with. Or we could just call our utility methods directly. So let's see. So it's the sound name, get default object is we'll get the pointer off of the subclass of template. Play SFX interrupted, play SFX. Alright, so we need to basically call all sorts of stuff here, and we'll need to change all this in the audio manager as well. I'd rather change it in the audio manager just because. And we need to change all of the names here real quick. Forgot to do that. So how far did Adam get inside of his 24 hours? I was asleep for a good chunk of it, I expect. Or maybe I should just ask him. Let's see, voice, sound, interface sound. And the reason we have to go through and name these things differently is because Blueprint functions cannot have the same names as other Blueprint functions, even if they take different arguments, which is kind of annoying, but I mean, you kind of understand why. You know, one argument would be a designer or somebody else working with it wouldn't want something to be named the same. There might also be issues where if you change the name of something and you change the signature of something, how do we resolve the differences in Blueprint data, such as if you change something so that it worked magically for some different function that you didn't intend, then it might be crazy. And they're also using reflection stuff. Alright, so the audio manager, it looks like pretty much all of our play methods here also need to take, instead of names, they should take sounds. So that's what we're going to do, is we're going to duplicate every single one of these things. Instead of a name, we're going to take a uSound based pointer. And we don't have to change these names because they're not exposed to Blueprint, so we can just keep the same. So we're going all the way to play primary and secondary BGMs. Alright, this should be done pretty quick. It's kind of boring just updating a whole bunch of code. Just to support like another type, but you gotta do it. Well, you don't have to, you can just not make a game. That's another option. Alright, so instead of name, we have sound. Uh-oh, we're gonna have to find what this name is. So let's see, what are we using for the name of these sounds? The name is going to be the asset name toString. So can we get the name of a U object? Is there like sound base.h? There is. So it is a U object. I think U objects have a get name on it. So we need a dupe string here. And that should do it. This one doesn't need one now, does it? That looks good. What are these complaining about? Alright, well, that should actually expose everything, so let's just make sure it works. Of course, the main issue here would be if the asset system doesn't know where these sounds are, they might cause stuttering when played, but they'll still work because of the way sounds can be preloaded or not preloaded. Or, I doubt Unreal actually has it stutter, it probably just has something else that it does. Maybe it won't play. But that's not really a big deal. We can always throw like a warning in there or something if we absolutely need to if we run into problems. Let's see, what are we complaining about here? We're complaining about commas. Well, we're going to complain about something. Commas aren't a bad thing to complain about. Looks like that might have caused a ton of other errors. Ambiguous call to overloaded function. So play SFX. So what is the other play SFX then? We had the location null pointer. So it's going to be basically the name is, it's not sure if it's play SFX here or sound base play SFX. Well, we could just kind of do what we did before and just do play sound. File. Play interface sound, play voice sound, play single SFX sound, play SFX. Alright, so here we are. This should be fine. This should be fine. This should be fine as well. It looks like it's really just the overloads. They're all actually wrapping the correct play methods with duplicates that we want. So it's going to be the util functions that are screwed up now. Play, SFX sound. Okay. Alright, so get default object should be there. Getting closer. And let's see if we actually fixed all of our problems, or if we created more for ourselves. Yeah, it's easy to, basically what we're setting up is so you can have a drop down inside of your blueprints and play your sound based on that easy to use drop down. It's sometimes easier to use string names because then you can replace those assets without updating any of the code and all that stuff, which can actually be a lot easier to deal with. Because think about it, like if you have a sound and you want to, like a bullet firing sound, and you call it bullet firing sound, and well, maybe you wanted to try a new bullet firing sound. If you had to go update every single audio thing to the new bullet firing sound in order to switch it, that'd be a real pain in the butt. So wouldn't it be easier just to say like play bullet firing sound and then just change the name of that other bullet firing sound to bullet firing sound? Change the other one to bullet firing sound old? And then it would just work, right? As opposed to having to update every damn thing in the game in order to test out just what it would sound like differently. So that's kind of why we want to be able to use the drop downs just for ease of use, but we probably should be using strings for or real stuff. So the question would be, why are you going through and doing the drop down stuff as well? It's like, well, because I can and it's easy, and I feel good about accomplishing simple tasks. And that's important, right? Accomplishing simple things. So let's take a look at what we've got now with our play sounds. Let's see if Adam's changes are in here. So yeah, I think we've got the left stick x-axis for the easing, so we should also have that play effect thing. And we have play SFX here. So play SFX sound. And we can select select it. How come there are none? So let's go see this SFX explosion. I can't just... This is a sound wave. So what exact type is this? So let's see. When we're preloading our sounds in our audio manager, I mean, what are we doing with them? Like, is there a sound wave.h? So let's see, a sound wave is a U sound base. So it should be a subclass of U sound base, so we should be able to select it from our dropdown, but it's not. It's not showing up. I mean, we've got this, like, I can select sound wave. I mean, should I just take a U sound wave pointer or something? Let's just try one function change at a time. So play SFX sound. Let's just take a U sound wave. So let's just try a U sound wave pointer sound and just see if that does what we want. Because I think they're all going to be sound waves anyway, so if it's not going to show up, then I can just throw U sound wave pointers in here and we can just do it that way. So gotta change those header files. Yeah, everything includes audio utils because I've got it set up so basically everything in the game, if you want to use your audio, you just call audio manager play sound as opposed to having to include a whole bunch of garbage. And it works pretty well on a small project like this, but probably not what you'd want to do with a larger one, because then it's like you change something and then everything has to recompile. And if everything is like 2 million files, then you'll be sitting here until you're dead. So let's open this up, take another look at it. So select asset, and we've got, so yeah, things actually show up now, like our parrot and all of our things. So let's try playing the parrot. Excellent, so that's all we have to do. So we'll just leave that one alone. And we're going to change everything to just take those sound wave pointers. Easy enough. Now we're done with this task, because that's all we need to do. A lot of game development is just making small changes that add up to a lot later. So, just very small things. Makes a sound, and then we can get rid of these. Get default objects. And if we run into some issues later, I can always take a little bit more of a closer look, but I think every sound comes in as a sound wave, so it just doesn't matter. It's always a good idea to start your day at like 3 in the morning, like me. That's just when all the pros get up. And I'm still salty that we weren't able to get through all the frickin' Battle Brothers stuff last night. Man, at this point I just want to be done with the damn game. Oh wait, or did we? I think we did. Shit, yeah. Oh yeah, we totally did, and we retired and everything. It's easier to reach 3 in the yeah, I agree with that. It's easier to be up at 3 in the morning if you never go to sleep. God, so what am I gonna play next for games? It's gonna have to be like it's gonna have to be Barkley Shut Up and Jam Gaiden, I think. Though that is going to get copyright struck to all hell. Because of the music. But I really don't care. Alright, let's get this thing compiled, and then I think we'll be moving on to... We'll make all of our 2D snapping layers, I think. Or at least we'll make a whole bunch of them. You can go parallel with that. I don't know, it's one of those games that you just... It's hard to put down once you start. Maybe I should just do like a live stream of me just beating the game, start to finish. I have no idea how long that would take. Let's put it in the editor and make sure that all these things exist. So they should be under the audio category. So let's look, we got audio, get BGM, play at location, play SFX sound, play single SFX sound, play sound. Yeah, we got all the cool shit. And these are all the... This is a pretty good representation of all the stuff that we can do. Is like, I have audio banks, you have your duplicate string, you have your sounds. We have a priority for that sound, we've got volume. We have a minimum amount of playthrough before it gets interrupted, because sounds can get interrupted while they're playing, because like a higher priority sound comes in to play, or the same sound, etc. We have things that like do not allow duplicate sounds of this type. If the sound loops and all that sort of stuff, and then you have to like call like start and stop. And this programmatic looping for your sounds is not something you can do normally in Unreal, but I have edited the core engine to let me do that. And then we can do things like, if there's a duplicate, what should we do? Should we restart the sound? Should we just force overwrite the sound? Or should we just not replace it? Things like that. So, sounds are good. We have fixed that part of it. So, let's see, what's next? We want to create our snapping layers for all of our objects in 2D, I think. So that requires us to boot up the editor. And I have to see exactly where these 2D layers get set and not set. Because if it's a per level thing, then that's pretty annoying. I want to be able to move these snapping layers between levels. So I need to double check that real quick. Let's just write that down. So we've got these snapping layers. So if we edit our layers, they're actually in our project settings. Okay, that's cool. So we got like foreground, default, background. So let's see, what snapping layers are we going to need? Well, these should be snapping layers for things that are in the actual game. And we also want snapping layers for things that are kind of in the fore. So if we've got like our way background, we've got our if these were our layers, how many background layers would we probably need? Like, if we have a scene here, what's going to be in our scene? I should probably just pull up like a picture with crap in the background and see what we can do with it. So let me go find something that I might be able to use as a reference. So if we had visual layers for all these scenes, what sort of things would we need for them? So why don't we start with maybe this one? We've got like the far background, which is like the sky, then we have way back mountains. We would have like far background would be like little mountains there. Background would probably be the trees. Then we have like So you probably have something like close background and like medium background. And probably something like immediate background. So something that's like right behind our scene. And then we've got our kind of our stuff. Stuff here is actually on the 2D track. And we need quite a few layers. We're going to have like things that we're running along. So we're going to have like, we need quite a bit of background options here. So we need like, again, far background. Yeah, why don't we just like far, medium background, background, close background, immediate background. Let's see, we're gonna have then the actually things on the track. We probably want like things that are just behind the player or things like that. So we do want a player layer. Then we want things that are behind it, so like maybe like player background, player foreground. And do we want like an enemy background, enemy? Or maybe instead of calling them enemies, we should call them NPCs. But they're all enemies, I don't care. Fat Saxon enemy. Enemy foreground. So maybe we should actually have like background enemy background. I mean, that doesn't really make sense, but if we had like background enemy foreground. And then what you do is, we basically have all these layers, and they're actually broken up into 3 layers or something like that is what it seems like, or 3 or 5. So it'd be like, this would be like foreground enemy, background, and then foreground enemy, foreground enemy, foreground. And then we'd have like foreground. So it'd be like far, foreground, medium, foreground, close foreground, foreground, then I guess maybe this is far track foreground or something like that. We'll just call it track for everything. Yeah, the naming kind of breaks down. If we were going to have 5 different distances and we're going to have different layers for every one of them, or should we have 3? Trying to decide, and that's kind of, it can be a little time consuming to kind of figure out what you're actually doing. Because when you get these things set up, you kind of just use them forever. So I'm trying to think of like, well, if we have an enemy and they have an effect on them, like a glow effect, we want to be able to attach that to the enemy, but we want to put it in the enemy background. But if that enemy is in front of another enemy, should the effect be in the background of both enemies, or just in the background of that single enemy? How should it look? It really depends. Because the effect is attached to a specific enemy, it should be attached to that enemy. So if the enemy is in front of something else, it should be there. But if it's an effect that's kind of surrounding that enemy, that's different. You know, like if it's got if it's like a spotlight effect or something, it shouldn't. It should go behind both enemies, but be locked to one enemy. Like, so there's a case for both things. So I guess we could have tracks and have 5 layers. It would be, should we have it like far back, regular, and then 4, and then far 4? So we'd basically have our modifiers on our layers. So our layers would be like track background, and track background would have far back, regular 4, and far 4. And we need to have these with good math layers. So we go from, our track is from front to back is from 400 to negative 400. So we've got 800 units to deal with. So how many equal subdivisions can we have in there? So if we've got 800 and we divide it by like 20, we've got 40 different layers. If we divide it by 5, we've got 8 different levels. So if we have 8 layers with 5 sublayers equals 800 pixels. 800 with 20 centimeter width for each sublayer. So that's basically like, you'd have, 800, then 700, 780, 760, 740, 20, and then 700, and that would be like, track background would be those 5 different levels, and of course we'd have, this would be like 799. And this would be 701 and stuff like that. We're going to need some enums for these things so we can programmatically use the layers as well. Because we need to do some manual depth sorting here for our 2D objects, because they're going to be kind of really close to each other in the x-axis, which is our sorting axis. So we're going to have to figure that out. So I think we have track background. We've got enemy background. We should have like a kind of foliage background, enemy background. We should have player, enemy foreground, maybe player foreground. Foliage foreground. We should probably have like a pickup or like item layer. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We should probably have a foliage foreground. So instead of enemy, we should probably call it NPC, and we'll be using that for items as well as everything else. Just like a foliage foreground. And then maybe a foreground. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if we have all of these layers, we have, if we like, okay, we have a log. Where's the log gonna go? It's probably gonna go in. Well, it depends, right? Like if we have a log that has a front and a back, it's gonna need to span 2 layers and all that. And how do we actually keep those unique? Because if like a log is 2 actual objects, if we put the log in background, basically we want the... Seems like we want to place the front of the log, and then the back of the log should be a good distance, and it shouldn't be modified by... It should be modified by its X scale. But it would be nice to have, like, if we had an object with different layers in it, I think there's only going to be like 2 layers in an object. So maybe we should have it so we automatically detect and automatically scale objects. So if you got a log that's like spans, we should give it some sort of span. So if you have an object and it's got depth on it, I could actually put like a button and say like how many layers it spans, like primary layers and then sub layers. But I think these will be pretty good. So if we do those 8 layers, we should be good there. And we should probably do the same sort of pattern for all the rest of these things, is have regular names for everything. So we should have like a so our 5 regular layer names are going to be far background, background, regular, foreground, and far foreground. So for our background, we should have our let's see, this would be far back. Yeah, naming and everything like that is super important in programming, and is probably one of the most difficult things a lot of the times, is coming up with good names for things. So I'm trying to come up with names of frickin' background layers that'll make sense. And it's always like, well, what's far background? Well, it's a relative unit of measure. It's like, shit. I mean, sometimes it's better to have like just depths and just deal with it. So we should probably just do some basic things for this, just so we can have consistency in how far things are away. And the backgrounds are all going to be like handmade anyway, from what I think we'll probably be messing with. So I'm going to call it something like horizon. Far background, background. Yeah, far background, far background. Alright, that makes total sense. Horizon, far background. Horizon, far foreground. Yeah, yeah.